go. Oh, I'm not sweaty.
Well, you know, it's weird. It's hot and humidity. Heavy humidity outside.
Right. First going to start over in Dutch. Het is vandaag vrijdag 17 juli en ik zit hier tegenover Stephen B. Scott. And he's American, so I have to try to talk in the English language, which is not my cup of tea, really.
But you do a great job at it.
I'm trying. I used to have lots of English friends, and then you get used to it. But now I haven't, and now I'm really rusty.
Well, I've been off and on around Europe long enough that I should speak Dutch.
Well, how long have you lived in Antwerp now?
Well, give or take, I've been back and forth, and I started off my first time coming here about 3 years ago.
Right.
So I just love the city. I love the people, and I got a girlfriend here, so I better love it.
So yeah.
No, I definitely love her. So she's pretty amazing.
Right. So you at least one of the peoples you love.
I traveled across the world to find a nerd woman. So anyway, yeah. But it's just you know it's a great place to be.
Oh yeah, I'm from Holland. I'm originally not from Belgium, so I'm Dutch.
Okay, where were you from?
I'm from the southern part of Holland. And I just went here to study photography, and then apparently the bars stayed open until really late. So that was the thing. And then I fucked up the study, and well, at the end,
man, you're a brother from another mother. Like the bars stayed open late. This was my place.
That's exactly what happened.
I can see that. Okay.
And I have to try again because I fucked up here. All right, again.
You'll start off from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm very good at seeing now. So that we. Yeah, I have to. It has to be in separate tracks, so I can.
You want to go back and listen to it, and then we can go.
No, we will just. Sorry, like a minute. All right, I have to put this one out. That one's not loud enough. Now it is.
Testicle.
All right. I have to be. Right. Wipe my fucking.
Yeah, man, it's just a humid day.
It really is.
Like, I'm from Mississippi, and this is the way Mississippi was in the summertime, man. You just walk outside, and it's like you're taking a shower all over again.
Wow, that's. Oh, okay, that's something I want to know. Oh, well, this is still running. Well, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's okay. Just remember to ask it.
Yeah.
Where I'm from, Mississippi.
Yeah. Here we go again. Right. Het is vandaag vrijdag 17 juli en ik zit hier tegenover Stephen B. Scott en die is Amerikaans, dus ik moet in het Engels. I have to do it in English. Welcome, Stephen.
I'm glad to be here. Yeah, I'm Indian American.
Yeah, why?
Because I'm not bilingual or trilingual. I mean, here everybody speaks multiple languages. I'm very grateful for it. And that's why I've so lazily not been able to pick up on any Dutch right now.
Well, I've had some American friends, and it's pretty hard because people love to speak English. Even when you try to speak Dutch.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Even say, well, no, don't bother, we speak English.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, I'm definitely friends with everybody in the nerd geek community here because I'm a nerd geek.
Right.
And so they're like, everyone is raised on all the entertainment from the States, and they listen to it in English, maybe with some subtitles of Dutch, but they listen to it in English.
Yeah, that's where you learn. And there's a big difference between like the Belgium and Holland and the more northern countries, because all the other southern countries and Germany, they have it dubbed.
Right.
So it's a bit more difficult for them.
In France, I remember I was in France for about 4 months before, stayed with some friends, and it was in Paris, and they were telling me, they said, Steve, you do know that Sylvester Stallone has got a French dub Sylvester Stallone guy that's been doing his voice since he was young.
Yeah.
And he sounds like a French Sylvester Stallone, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's always when in Germany and in France, the people who do they're sticking to their character. They're sticking to their actor.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a Netflix documentary about My Name is George Clooney. It's about all the George Clooneys in all the different parts of the world.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
That'd be wonderful.
Well, enough about that. Let's talk about you.
We could talk about this other stuff all day long. Anyway, all right, so what? What do you want to know?
Well, we met at the Comic-Con in Brussels.
Yes.
Which was right before lockdown. I think, what,
It was right before lockdown.
2 weeks later it was lockdown?
It was our last big, like, wow, we get to see other people and fan out and being nerds.
Touch people and stuff like that.
Back in the day when you can hug.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, do you remember those days?
Oh, no.
Anyway.
Well, then they seem like a really long time, yeah?
It does. It does. But yeah, we met over there.
Yeah.
First time I'd known about. Well, I'd been to this wonderful bar before.
Right.
And you know, the Joker bar. A friend took me here before because she said, "Hey, you know, I think this will be a bar that would interest you. You've drawn Batman and the Joker." I said,
right.
I walked in and I said, "Man, this is a great bit of home here. This is great."
Right.
Anyway,
and then you gave us some drawings of some prints. One of these. The other ones are on the wall.
Up on the wall in front of me right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the Jared Leto one. The one of an old school Joker, comic book Joker, which I really love, and the Joaquin Phoenix one. And we hadn't. Alex Ekian was saying in our Joker special that we don't have a Joaquin Phoenix one on the wall. I said, well, hold on, I've got one downstairs, and so I put it the next day. I put it on.
Awesome.
So
I'm honored to be up on the wall here because again, I love the place.
Yeah.
That's really good for me.
And it keeps changing, and I love it when new people gave us stuff and we put it on, and so it keeps refreshing. I've watched some photos of because at first this was one picture at that wall, so you could see what year it is on how many pictures there on the wall. You know?
Oh, that makes sense. And also the comedians stand on that stage right there.
Right, that's the stage.
Exactly.
Right.
So all that's always behind them. Well, maybe eventually I can work myself to be behind the comedian. I'm not saying.
Oh, you will.
I'm just giving a hint. Anyway.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you're from Mississippi originally.
Yeah, originally born and raised in Mississippi, Gulfport, Mississippi, and then finally Biloxi on the coastline. So I lived and grew up near New Orleans. To give anybody a baseline,
right?
It's like an hour and a half drive to New Orleans to Canal Street and Bourbon Street.
Right. And with the flood, was your family affected by it?
Well, we lost everything.
Really?
I was well. Actually, let's kick back to something a little bit further. For about 16 years, while drawing comics, I was a firefighter. So when Hurricane Katrina, the flood that you're talking about, hit Hurricane Katrina, I was a captain. I was a captain at Back Bay Fire Station, Station 3, and I'm trying to think about what this is in meters. So I'm going to talk my stupid English for this. I'm 6'1" in idiot measurements.
Right.
And so I'm a fairly tall guy, but water in our station was up to here.
Oh, really?
Like all of our stuff was floating. We were up to here in water, and we still didn't know if the water was going to rise even more. And finally, the other captain, we had shared 2 shifts that were on duty, noticed that the water line, that there was a water line, meaning if you see the water line form, you know the water's going down there.
Right, because it's
But it was up to here before it started receding.
Wow.
But yeah, the house that my girlfriend and I at the time had just moved in together, me and my kids and her, and we had we were on a 3rd floor of this beautiful mansion on the beach in Biloxi by the yacht club.
Right.
It was like heaven, you could see the fireworks on 4th of July from the balcony where I had my grill and I was cooking Southern style cooking, grilling good meats, and oh man, and then then it all got destroyed.
Wow.
Moved the family up to Atlanta, Georgia, and then for 4.5 years I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, where I also quit the fire department and went into comics full time. Okay,
so did the Hurricane Katrina
changed my life?
Your life?
Yeah.
I
would have been. A lot of times people are scared to take that extra risk because there's a contentment. They're content.
Right.
There was job security with being a firefighter, and I was a captain, so there's job security in that. I could have just stayed until retirement, but I thought, well, while I'm still young enough, let me just. I used to do comics. I would not have had to leave.
There's job stability.
Stability.
But also you could lose your life. I mean,
well, you're right about that. But what got me convinced was I had to be away from my family when this happened. It took me two days before I found out that my family lived in Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, really? Because
we're doing
cell phones, everything was out.
Everything was out. Cell phones, towers were out, but also most of us had our cell phones in our pockets. They were underwater. They were unusable. And so I knew about where my family was, and I remember on the 2nd day afterwards being able to borrow a friend's truck. And me and another friend found out we left the station late at night when we weren't on duty anymore, but we still We left. We AWOL'd a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Well,
just to find out.
As you fucking would do.
Just to find out.
Just to find out if you're
and I did. But that led to, like, the 2 days later, I met President Bush, was president at the time.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to him, I said, look, I said, you know, I said, we lived over there and we lost everything, but I found out my family, everybody survived, and that's the most important thing. And I meant it, it's true. And he quoted, the next thing I know, I'm being looked at by Secret Service to do a background check on everything about me, because what happened was, a few days later, he quoted me in a speech and mentioned my name, and that's how the rest of my family that was living in Birmingham, Alabama, and other places found out that me and the kids survived. Otherwise, they didn't even know that we survived.
Wow.
But that's how, because the president mentioned me on the you know.
Wow. And you actually met President Bush.
I met President Bush, yeah.
Which at the time we thought was an idiot, and now he's a fairly reasonable guy.
Cheers. Cheers, my friend. Yes, I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At the time, I was like, oh, yes, President Bush, no big deal. Now I look back at it, and it's like, man, this guy was genius.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, well,
compared.
It's
all comparable.
Yeah.
I don't mean to offend anybody that's a Trump fan, but I'm sorry if you're a Trump fan.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, they won't be watching this.
No. I don't think so either.
No, but, you know, yeah.
But
didn't it start with Reagan, but everybody said, like the famous quote in Back to the Future, right? Like, who's president? Reagan? The actor?
Yeah, the actor.
The actor. And then, no, we can't go any weirder than this. Oh, yes, we can.
The reality show. Oh, yeah, you can go weirder than that.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
America. Anyway, but had that all not happened to me, I would not have made the choice to go full-time in it. I was even out of comics for almost 6 years because I had custody of my kids, and I was like, okay, well, I need to work this one full-time job and then take care of my kids, which I was able to do. And my mother was a big help for that, too.
Right.
Because, you know, we worked 24
hours.
hours.
Wasn't enough time to draw anything.
Because when I was in my 20s, I mean, drawing comics and fire department, I worked no less than 100 hours. Well, 90 hours to 110 hours per week was my work schedule.
Wow.
And I was doing that between
between
age 25 to 30. That's what I worked.
Wow.
For 5 years.
But let's go a little bit further back. What do you remember the first time you came into contact with comics? What's the first comic you read or the first one you bought?
I remember picking up a comic book. It was a Treasury edition. You know what I'm talking about, right?
The huge ones.
Yeah. I'll say this, by the way, too, just to put in the perspective of my age. I'm 52 years old.
Wow.
So the comics, I mean, my generation of comics when I was a little kid was in the 1970s. Let's say 1976-ish.
Right,
that area.
right.
So the big, huge Treasury editions. I had the Spider-Man that reprinted Spider-Man Annual #1, which had the Sinister Six.
Right.
I remember that. But I don't remember reading. I remember looking at the beautiful pictures going, wow, this is great, the big pictures. First comic I remember reading was Incredible Hulk #200. And what happened was, what made me say, I gotta read this to find out what's going on, the Hulk had a helmet on his head, and Doc Samson was talking to him, and he was working with him, and he was calm, and I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
The Hulk, he doesn't act like this. I gotta read this to find out what's going on.
So that was even before the TV show.
I don't know.
I think so. I think the TV show is late 70s.
I think you're right. The Bill Bixby TV show.
Yeah, I think it's like 78, 79.
Yeah.
Something
I
like
love that TV show, but I loved it up until he turned into the Hulk. The Bill Bixby stuff was great.
He's a good actor.
He was a great actor.
I've just recently watched some episodes.
Yeah.
And then he played. He did it like for 4 seasons or something, 5 maybe. And then in the late 80s, he made 3
with the Thor
TV.
and oh man,
one with Thor. There's one with Thor. There's one with Daredevil.
I know. Yeah, I forgot about I didn't see the Daredevil one. But
it's called The Trial, of course, The Trial of the Hulk, and then it's got The Death of the Hulk. Then he dies.
Okay, I never saw
There's
that.
3 TV movies he made, and he directed them himself. So then he really wanted to catch shit.
What people don't understand, whenever I see them nitpick a lot of the new stuff that comes out in movies and TV, is that what we had was things like the DC superhero roast, or we had that. That was the best we had.
Right. And
like in the DC superhero roast, you had like scenes where like the Flash would just take a position and then they make him disappear off screen, and that was it. And it was corny as can be, and it had just I don't know, just worse special effects, and it was making fun of the superheroes.
Yeah.
But now we've got like I mean, think about the Marvel Universe.
It's...
What the heck?
Well, even if you compare the DC movies, they're still great by comparison.
Of course they are.
By comparison, they
I
are.
think DC's got them on cartoons. The animated stuff DC puts out is just really
I've been watching
fun to see.
I've been watching a few of those, which I hadn't seen, because for some weird reason I collect DVDs, and I want to have...
You're a nerd!
I'm a nerd, and I want to have all the superhero movie DVDs.
Yeah, of course.
And this is one which became something of a mythical thing for me, because I have not seen it and I couldn't get it, was the Shaquille O'Neal Steel movie.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
97.
Yeah. Well, another one that's hard you can find a bootleg of is that Fantastic Four.
Oh, I've got it on Blu-ray as well.
What? A Blu-ray?
I've got it on Blu-ray.
You know what I'm talking about? The one
I've seen the Roger Corman one.
What the heck?
I'm a real nerd, man.
That was fun, man. I saw it
I bought the first time I bought that one was in a comic shop in New York.
Oh,
in Midtime Comics in New York. I bought it on DVD, the bootleg version.
Wow.
It's on YouTube, and now it's being released on Blu-ray, shitty quality though.
Yeah.
Because there's a documentary called Doomed about the making of that movie.
Right. Now I've seen that I think I saw it like on YouTube or something.
Right, it is on YouTube.
Some way, you know, like that. But it's you know, I didn't even watch the last Fantastic Four movie, but my assumption is that it's still better than the last one.
It is because Doctor Doom is done properly.
Agreed.
And it's a movie made for $1 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, his hand's on a stick. Of course it is.
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic.
But the Doctor Doom is played by the right actor, and given the right look and the right, you know.
Why can't they just do that? I don't understand why they try to do
something. Hopefully that's the next thing they're gonna do.
Hopefully
But still, I was because that DVD I couldn't get. Now I have it, and now I want all the comics, because I think it's like Iron Man meets. Obviously Superman.
Oh yeah.
And Thor, because he's got a hammer.
Yeah.
So I'm completely fascinated by the Steel character.
No, I get you on that.
And the movie
I remember doing samples of artwork for the Steel. They had a Steel comic book, and I remember doing samples to try to get on that because I liked the look of the character.
Yeah.
In the comic book.
The look is way better than the comics in the
but he was such a cool character to draw.
And that's got me into that, because it's he's created because Superman dies.
Yeah.
Then there's this thing called Reign of Superman, and then he's one of the new Superman.
Yeah.
And all those things were made on our cartoons as well. Mm-hmm. And they've done quite well, really.
Well, yeah, on the animated stuff.
Yeah.
Like even Avengers Dark, I remember watching that. I've got the copy of that, and it's just really well done. And it's got Deadman in it. I mean, it's got all the mystic type, you know.
Right.
It's really cool. And like I said, they do it really well there. Speaking back to Fantastic Four, just really quickly.
Yeah.
I wish that they would do, if they do the Fantastic Four movie, I wish they'd make it in the 60s. I mean, to me, I think the Fantastic Four fit with the 60s. That, you know, they tried to go up to the moon or out of this, and it was the radioactivity, the Van Allen belt,
right?
The radiation from that caused them to mutate and turn into that. Because it was all pre-going to the moon, so they didn't know what would happen if you took something out of Earth.
You know, back then Stan Lee's solution was radiation to everything,
but it was still a fun solution.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, you know, having also there's one of the issues. I had a Fantastic Four that had the Watcher. And he had their civilization inside of a moon crater.
Right.
I mean, that was amazing. And they have what do you call it? Where it's like you know, these crazy theories that there's alien
people inside the moon and
on the moon, and in the craters, and they look at pictures saying, look, that looks like something
like
there.
A building or
and he was ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time.
Well, Jack Kirby.
I was going to say Jack Kirby. Because
he read Eric von Daniken.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Obviously he did. Especially with what he took to DC Comics.
Yeah, well, the whole Eternals.
Eternals was definitely right out of that.
That's Eternals is a comic book series that's going to be made in a movie. The timeline is a bit fucked up because of Corona now, but it will probably be next year or the year after. It's going to be in Eternals, and that's completely like where has been Were the gods astronauts? That's the whole thing.
Well, that's pretty much what it was.
Like Prometheus.
For those that don't know, Jack Kirby, back in the day, Jack Kirby would actually probably present a story more or less to Stan Lee. Or Stan Lee would just give him a gist of, hey, how about we have the Fantastic Four go up against a black character this time? Boom! Black Panther's created by Jack Kirby.
Right.
And then, you know, Stan Lee beautifully scripted it. He was really good at making good characterizations in the 60s. Because if you read the 60s... if you read the 60s comics of Marvel versus DC, DC was just so very pedestrian.
Right.
And silly. It was just made for little kids. But Marvel was writing for teenagers to young adults. Yeah, and I gotta credit Stan Lee on that.
Absolutely.
But Kirby also created a lot of that.
Yeah, Kirby created it, and Stan Lee did the marketing and letters pages and the soapbox and that's all.
God, made you feel like you're part of a club.
Right.
What was the name of the marching club? The Mary Marvel Marching Society.
Right, exactly.
And you could become part of the club. It was like, man, it's not just reading comics. You're part of the club.
You're part of a. Like now, it's everybody can connect now because like Facebook and social media. But back then, it's really hard, and those pages of the comic books were one part of.
Man, I got to tell you, I've had so much fun doing comics over the years, and still doing comics. I've recently got some stories I'm going to tell you about that I never thought I'd be doing. I'm happy. I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
Right.
But one of my most fun times actually was also drawing Marvel Adventures Hulk.
Right.
I did a run on Marvel Adventures.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
And for anybody out there, like what it is, like comics right now, like are so saturated. Like they build a story for like a 4-issue series run so that they can make a trade paperback out of it.
Right. Exactly.
Marvel Adventures line were one and done stories.
Yeah.
So you pick up that 20-page comic book and you had an entire story. There could have been a little bit of a subplot, but not much.
No.
But for the most part, you pick up the next issue and you can start fresh from there. And man, Marvel Adventures Hulk. Okay, I showed him this earlier, but I'm going to show everybody this.
Right.
Okay, one of the things I accidentally brought with me, because I brought my portfolio with me.
Yeah, what's
but I'm going to put this in front of the light.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see it, because it might be reflection here, but Excelsior, Stan Lee. I was at a convention, and a really good friend of mine was one of his handlers, and she goes, Steve, before we pop out, anything you want me to have Stan sign for you? I said, sure. And I looked through to find out what prints didn't sell yet. When I was working on Marvel Adventures Hulk, I got to do this. This is a splash page from the issue. I got to do the Hulk going up against the Thing.
That's iconic. That's one of the most iconic.
So you can understand why. Now another thing I got to do in drawing the Hulk. Put this up now. The other thing I got to do in drawing the Hulk. My editor. I went to New York Comic Con. Mark Panisha. I went to go meet at Marvel and spent the whole day Friday at Marvel Studio. Their offices.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're in New York, Manhattan, why not do that?
Yeah, well, they used to really go there and draw there.
Well, no, yeah.
Well, not that place, but...
Well, I got another story. They do that. But the thing is, but I went in there, and Mark gave me an 8-page story. It was they were doing a thing, Hulk Broken Worlds, and he gave me a Hulk 1602 story.
Okay,
so it was Banner went to he was at a monastery in China.
Yeah.
Became a monk to try to control his anger.
Right, in the Middle Ages, yeah.
But along comes Fin Fang Foom.
Right.
So I got to draw Hulk battling Fin Fang Foom. Now, you're a Marvel fan.
I know, yeah.
So I'm a geek nerd Marvel fan and DC fan, but look, getting to draw Fin Fang Foom also.
Right. That's sort of a Godzilla style character, right? Yeah.
Ridiculously in purple shorts. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
So what I did, I always kept that bottom portion of him in some kind of shadow because I didn't want to detract from the purple shorts, but I didn't want to draw him either.
No, exactly.
But yeah, he was a traditional looking Japanese dragon.
Right.
But with the mind of a human.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun.
Oh yeah, and I mean that. Also, drawing the Thing, one of my favorite characters is the Thing. Also, because Jack Kirby always said that he was the Thing.
Of course,
like the stony posterior, smoking the cigars,
everything,
and the sweetest guy ever.
Exactly. So when I was working on the Marvel Adventures line, I kept in my mind. Well, I did the Marvel Adventures Fantastic Four, where I went by a little bit of how they did the thing there. Which one of the things that bothered me when I did it, I gave him teeth because they gave him teeth, and I was like, that doesn't look right to have teeth on the thing.
No.
So when I did the Marvel Adventures Hulk run, I said, no, screw the teeth. I'm going strictly Kirby. So mine actually did look very Kirby-esque because
Right.
I wanted it to.
Yeah, well,
Because he needed to.
and that's the way you have to draw it, because the master himself did it. So, so the first comic you. So you're also a little bit more. I mean, we love DC and Marvel, but I love Marvel a little bit more. What about you?
I love both. Like, I grew up on Marvel Comics mainly, but also then I explored, like, the DC Comics. I was really into Batman.
Right.
And Green Lantern. I really love Green Lantern.
Okay.
So I liked both. I went to, you know, I mean, oh, man, something else I loved. I picked up Warren Magazine. I picked up Vampirella, The Rook, Creepy, Eerie. I love science fiction anthology stories.
Right.
And characters like that could, you know, even if they were like a serialized series, but they were also more adult-oriented nature, you know. They didn't mind showing
there's
some...
there are older things, that like the 50s stuff, the Wally Wood, Jack Davies stuff.
God. Well, Wally Wood,
I love Wally
a
Wood.
tremendous fan of Wally Wood's
Me
work.
too.
I own Wally Wood's Weird Sex... what's it? Weird Sex Fantasy. It's a portfolio sets. Back in the day, they used to do these great big portfolio sets, and it's just individual plates that you can frame.
Right.
A fan of mine gave me this, and it's also, and always it was signed. It was like only 500 I made.
Wow.
And it's signed by Wally Wood and numbered.
Okay.
And I'm like,
that's
it's another one of my holy grails.
Yeah.
His
Well,
signature.
whenever you're in financial shit, that's the go-to guy. Yeah.
Contact you. Okay, I know what you
No,
mean.
I'll probably be in financial shit as well.
Oh god.
But oh wow, that's
Yeah,
really
but it's like I said, it's a little holy grail thing for
Yeah.
me to have because again, and he had such a very sad. Woodworks is a very true about how comic book artists are.
Yeah.
There's a picture in Woodworks. It's about Wally Wood's story. It's a big, thick hardcover book. And towards the end of it, you can see where he was living in a person's shed behind their backyard in California. And he had, hanging on his wall to give an idea about how he had accomplished so much by this time, was Thunder Agents. He had Thunder Agents artwork hanging on his bed. He worked from his little cot bed, had a typewriter so he can write his scripts for himself. And that was where he was living.
Right.
He'd go inside the house, make a pot of coffee, bring the pot into his little shed with him, and he had already by that time created Thunder Agents.
Right.
What the heck? So, life of a comic book artist can go like this, and especially today when you're.
Well, that's also a little bit contributed to Stan Lee, that the writers and the artists got more famous in the '60s, got more acknowledged. It was before that. It was a little bit more like working in a factory. Mm-hmm. You work in a factory, you draw comics.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, you didn't understand the difference. I mean, he even giving people nicknames like Jack King Kirby,
Right.
Jovial Gene Colan, or all those things. All those little nicknames helped out because it gave a life to the person that drew it.
Right. Exactly.
It really did. And so, yeah, I agree with that completely. Now, as far as giving some rights to the artist, as far as art returns and royalty and all that, Neil Adams was on the forefront of that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Love him or hate Neil Adams, he was definitely, for the artist, he was a blessing because...
Yeah, that was a whole thing towards the end of Jack Kirby's life. I mean, I think it only worked out like early 90s, when I think he died in like 94 or something. And just before that, or just after his death, it was all settled.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and a lot of that work probably didn't go back to him.
No.
Yeah, it really sad.
Yeah, but that was because you were signed a contract and your artwork was no longer yours.
Right. And so now, like, when I worked for a publisher, because of those rights that were instituted by Neil Adams, which were rights that were done in commercial art all throughout the world.
Right.
See, he basically just made it to where, okay, this is commercial art. And like I do a cover for a publisher. I never even send it to them. I just send them a digital file, high res, cleaned up, ready, already put down in the format, the template, and then they send me a check. And then they direct deposit these days. I mean, like I said, I'm still talking like I'm an old man. They send me,
They send you a check.
They send me a check in the mail, and I sign it and go to the bank. No. They direct deposit, or sometimes I work through PayPal. But like they said, but it's so beautifully designed now, where you can live anywhere. You can live on the island of Guam as long as you've got Wi-Fi, and you can produce comic books.
Right.
That being said, the talent, now the competition is out there that are from Guam and from the Philippines and everywhere, because they have just as much ability to instantly send the work to the publishers as I do.
Yeah.
So it means that
I
can't take for granted that I've got work. I've got to make sure I'm always at my best and do the best I possibly can.
But that's why you can live in Antwerp and work for those publishers in America, because it's the digital highway, it's no problem.
Right. I could live, again, like I said, I could live in Cyprus.
Yeah.
I could live anywhere.
As long as Wi-Fi, you can live there.
As long as Wi-Fi, as long as Corona does not take away the Wi-Fi, we're in business.
What was the so I can imagine you start drawing, you read the comic books, you love it, you start drawing, and then you present your work to a publisher or something, or what do you do?
Yeah, man. This was okay. Back to the fire department. What allowed me to be able to do all this to begin with, I got. I remember I was a screen print artist doing T-shirt designs, like something like what you're wearing right now. I would know how to put that on a T-shirt.
Okay.
And some of the firemen came in. One of them said, "Hey, look, we got 14 positions going to be opening pretty soon. You know, you should try out for that, because it allows you to work 1 day on, 2 days off, and you can still work here doing screen printing." Instead, my mind is thinking, wow, you know, I can take that time and use that money and say, I'm going to do submissions. I'm going to practice my craft. To draw comics is not about like the pinups. It's not about that. It's not an instant image. It's storytelling.
Right.
And mastering that is finding out your inner, how to be a storyteller.
Right.
So you got to get the drawing part. Being able to draw is out of your way. You already have that.
Right.
Yeah. But I didn't. So I'm trying to work on all of it at the same time. My early submissions look like shit. I mean, most people, they all do.
Yeah, of course.
There's a story of Frank Miller going in and to Neil Adams and him telling him over and over, you know, just give it up. It's horrible. And look what happened to Frank Miller.
Right.
But
up to a point.
Yeah, to a point.
To a point. Yeah.
But, and then it went all shit again.
Yeah.
I know where you're going.
Holy terror.
Woo. Anyway, agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and the spirit.
So for about. I hated what he did with the spirit, because there's a great interview that he had, you know, and with what's his name, the creator of the spirit, Will Eisner.
Will Eisner, yeah.
And they acknowledge that they have different creative directions, and yet he still did his spirit. And I never saw the movie. Anyway, but I digress. I'm going.
Yeah, no worry.
But the fire department. Job allowed me to be able to make an income. I was having a family then, my first baby born and all that.
Yeah.
And then also take the time to make submission packets out. I did probably over 300 or 400 sequential pages of samples sent out to editors 5 or 6 at a time.
Right.
For about 3 years before I ever got published with Malibu Comics.
Okay.
But that took that much work. And that much time, most people get discouraged after the first no, and they're not good enough, and they say, "Okay, well, I give up."
Right.
But what took it, the people that make it and the people that don't, are the people that are willing to take abuse and say, "Oh, you're awful, you're terrible, give it up," and then say, "You know what? But I want this."
Right.
And you just keep on going.
And that's how it works in comedy as well.
Of course it does.
If you discourage stuff, your third or 10th or maybe your 100th open mic, quit. Don't do it.
Well, you know, like I told you before this, and I mention it now, you know,
yeah,
live on it. Anyway,
yeah.
But no, I listen to the Joe Rogan Experience a lot. I listen to that podcast a lot. And the thing is, he's got some comedians on there sometime, and they're talking about that like this is a gym. Like what you have here for comedians is a gym. This is where they come and they can work their material, find out, okay, my pacing, my timing getting right on this, I need to work on that. Or they leave here almost crying, like, I failed, I bombed.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. You got to get past that. You're going to bomb.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's taking those, it's like a Rocky thing. It's taking the hits and coming back up. But literally, it's that way with everything in life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The ability to be able to fail a lot.
And still go through with it. And so... Yeah. And then so you did that. You did lots of tryouts, and then you published with Malibu Comics.
Malibu Comics.
What was the first one? What was the first?
Well, I'll get back to how that even happened.
Oh, okay.
There was a friend of mine, Barry Gregory, and Thomas Flormonte was already working for Malibu Comics, and their editor was a good friend, Roland Mann. Also he was from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I was from Biloxi, Mississippi.
Right.
But we had done a comic book called Hurricane LaRue, based in New Orleans, and dealing with the swamps and the Creole and all the voodoo culture. Right. And it was one comic book, but it was able to show the sample that I can complete a comic book. Right, right. Exactly. And my first work was horrible. Like it was on There was a grenade and electrocute story, backup story in, I think, Sludge. And don't look it up. But you know, you have to do all that shit to build up to when you finally get good.
Of course.
And then after I did that, the work ran out at Malibu because, man, my work was horrible. I don't blame them. But they also knew I had a full-time job. It wasn't like I was the hungry person saying, hey, give me more work because it's all I have.
Right.
I still was a firefighter. But then I got work with doing Razor for London Night Studios, and that's where I really cut my teeth, was doing this character like with blades, Razor. And but man, the writer and creator, Everett Hartsoe, basically, it was not our kind of comic book. You and I wouldn't read Razor.
Okay.
He'd call me, say, Steve, I ain't got nothing on this script. He said, yeah. Tell you what, 3 pages, you got Razor and, I can't remember the other character's name, Knife? Yeah, Knife.
Okay.
They're in her apartment, and they argue, but show some titty. And I'm like, okay, so that was my plot.
The Stan Lee.
That was my plot.
Yeah.
Just make sure to show some titty. And I'm like, okay, all right, I got this. I can have them argue in the bedroom and then show some. But that was it. But it was fun. But look, he let me, you know, look. And it wasn't comics that I thought people were really looking at, but it was really. They did sell about 20 to 30,000 copies per comic.
Wow.
And then we later did the Chromium cover. Which you remember that word, Chromium?
Yeah.
It was a fad. Before the fad of Chromium went out, I did one of the last Chromium covers. It was for Razor #1. We did a color edition.
Right.
It sold about 40,000 copies, which was a failure by its standard of being Chromium. So that's when things were starting to hit, like London Night Studios. Even that was when the market was really cutting back on the collector.
Right.
People that were just buying to collect.
It's like early 90s.
Yeah, probably about 90s. You know, you brought up to me something and it had me dig out a comic I had, New Warriors. When I started working for Marvel Comics, it was about 1999.
We zijn terug. Korte pauze, want ik werd gebeld. Right, we were talking about your first Marvel Comics, Warriors #1.
Now the New Warriors.
New Warriors.
The important thing about that also, besides, #1, it was my first Marvel gig and given a series. And here I am also a firefighter, a full-time firefighter, and I'm given a team book.
Right.
I mean, if you understand, if you ever talk to anybody, a team book is like a nightmare. Not many people can do the team book thing because it's you have to keep up with all these characters and coordinate them in the same scene. So that's,
right. Lots of characters in one page.
You have to draw so much more than anybody else does.
Right.
But the point is, I got this gig. It was really wonderful. The biggest thing to me also about it, though, was that starting with issue 2, I got to also I had done a corner box.
Right.
Which anybody that's a Marvel Comics fan understands that, you know, the thing about Marvel set them apart from DC besides some of the stories was you had a corner box that was represented in every issue.
Yeah.
Every issue had the same, or had a variation of a corner box. Different colors would set it off to where, like, if you're looking through your collection, oh yeah, that's issue 3, but because the colors of the corner box. And I got to do one, and I put Speedball in it because I'm a Ditko fan, and they had me redesign these characters. They made me do it.
Right.
Me, I'm an old school geek nerd. I would have just been happy to just leave all the characters the same way.
Right.
But
so there's not one on here because it's the first #1, but it's in the left hand corner.
Right. Yeah, but starting with issue 2, it started that way. So even on the issues that I didn't get to draw myself, the rest of the series of
New Warriors.
Yeah. I got to actually have the corner box no matter what. So whether I did the cover or whether I was in the issue.
So the one corner box you made was all the whole series, or did it change as well?
I don't remember. I didn't keep up too much, but I think it was at least several issues afterwards. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I know. I remember that the corner box of Spider-Man when he came back from Secret Wars was still the red and blue
right, even though he had the black costume.
Even though he had a black costume. And then the issue afterwards, he had the corner box was a black costume.
They thought about things back then dealing with marketing and recognizability, because at least they wanted to keep people saying, hey, we don't want to confuse them too much probably, and keep that up there. DC Comics used to have these amazing style guides by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, which are like beautiful. I mean, #1, to me, he's the most perfect comics artist there ever was. I mean, his style, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. But he did the style guides. They don't do style guides anymore. Even when I was working on Batman, when I got the Batman series, I was like, okay, I had to only look at the previous issue of Batman, but then the other, like Detective and other books, he was still drawn differently. I'm like,
Yeah.
So you should
even though it's in the same universe, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
and
there became a time when continuity of recognizability wasn't even there. Back when I worked on Marvel Adventures Hulk, they had the second Hulk movie come out. You know, the one, the second
Tim Roth one.
Yeah, yeah. And the regular Hulk title was the Red Hulk. So if let's say a fan went to see the Hulk movie, my Hulk was the only one recognizable to them as being Banner.
Exactly.
And that's weird to me.
Yeah. Also, what I also think is what you just said is that those Marvel Adventures. I've not owned any of the Hulk, but I own some of the Iron Man ones, and they're a little bit more for kids maybe.
Well, for me they were designed. They were supposed to be for kids, the Marvel Adventures,
right?
But they were designed also for adults that remember when comics were written and done this way.
Right, and that's the thing. There's also a famous quote of Stan Lee that every comic will be somebody's first.
Yeah.
And if you pick up a comic now, you won't be able to read it because you have to have the backstory. You don't know it's part 5 or 6.
That's true.
You don't know anything anymore.
That's true.
And you have to know there's this. From Spider-Man, it's like 60 years of continuity. For Batman, it's even 80 years of continuity. What the hell do you all need to know?
There's that, but also like in the case, you're completely right. But also in the case of, let's say, Thor. Let's say you watched, you really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. I enjoyed.
Yeah,
Thor
I did.
I
love that bill.
So let's say I wanted to say, okay, you know, I hope the comic books are written like this. I want more of that character of Thor.
Yeah.
But you pick up the comic book, and now there's a woman as Thor.
Exactly.
But that's fine. I think it should be, though, the Thor Ragnarok Thor. I think that, in other words, a little thing, I know it's a peeve. I love the fact that they're trying other things. I remember when Thor was a frog.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a drawing. Hold on a second.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I did a commission that you're going to appreciate and like if you... you ever watch Mandalorian?
Yeah, of course. Watch it, yeah.
Well, I did this commission for a friend. I'll put it wherever you guys can see it. I don't know if you can with the lighting or not.
Oh, wow.
But it's like the Thor during that time period, he was a frog.
Yeah.
And of course, he's defending a frog that, you know, the baby, the child.
The
child
Baby Yoda, as he's called, but it's called the child now.
But there was a time when Thor was a frog. Didn't mind it one bit. But the thing is, when you got
a worthy frog,
a worthy frog. when you got a movie coming out, you know, you should have at least a comic in your line that represents...
This one title that,
Because what got me into comics to begin with, that part we didn't even get into. I forgot about that.
Oh, okay.
They really got me collecting comic books. I saw and fell in love with the first Star Wars film, 1977.
Right.
I was a 9-year-old kid. I was who that film was made for, that age.
Yeah.
And I remember another nerd friend kid I was at school, he said, you know they make Star Wars comic books, right? I said, what? And I remember like asking my mom, please, can we go to the Biloxi newsstand and check to see and buy. And from there, I discovered Star Wars comics.
They were in Marvel.
Micronauts, which that comes to why I decided I wanted to draw comics. Michael Golden's artwork on Micronauts was when I discovered that all comics are not equal.
Right.
I was like, who is this Golden? There's this artist? Oh, I want to do this one day. I want to be this guy one day.
Right.
So there was Micronauts, Rom Space Knight, built, based on a toy line. Micronauts was based on a toy line.
That's Rom Space Knight.
Rom Space Knight was based on one toy.
Okay,
there was a character called Rom. There was a robot that
I know. Yeah.
He fit in with the G.I. Joe size. He was that height of like the Adventure Team. Action Man. Here you had Action Man. Yeah. He was Action Man size. And he had like a little light up, whatever. But it was based around that.
I didn't know.
So those things appealed to me, and then after that, I got into the Spider-Man, and Spider-Man, Peter Parker, I so adapted to because when I picked up the first old Ditko Lee's, the first few issues of Spider, I picked up a little digest size.
Right.
And I remember reading that and going, "Oh my God, this nerd kid is me.
Exactly.
Only I'm not brilliant." It was the only difference.
But that was what it's supposed to be. That was the whole issue. That was the whole thing that people would, and that's the brilliance of the Marvel comics for me. Is the different and there's good things about both things, but the DC comics are really I don't know the English word. Are more like. Well, the Marvel comics are more human, It's more about the Fantastic Four is about a family who's fighting all the time.
Think about the X-Men.
Yeah.
Think about the X-Men.
X-Men is
if you're a child going through puberty, number one,
wow.
you're like, wow, you're messed up in the head anyway. Let's say you're a child that's also homosexual,
right?
Going through all that time period,
or black,
or whatever.
It's about being different.
Anybody, the X-Men, you can relate to all the X-Men characters in some way if you're a child going through that stage. X-Men was beautifully done in that respect.
And that's the humanity of that is a little bit different from the iconesque characters like Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. They're icons.
Right.
Flawless, really.
But we gotta still remember, though, those characters were designed in the 1940s.
In 40s.
40s, and they were designed for an entertainment for children.
Right.
Never looked at to be like analyzed by two, older adults with gray in their beard.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But the truth is, they were never designed to be analyzed by us. They were made for kids.
No, and they weren't even considered art. That's why they're so expensive now, because it was like a newspaper, you throw it away.
One day, my friend, I got to show you my Golden Age art collection. I brought it here to Europe.
Really?
I got a Golden Age original art. Yeah, not Superman, Batman, but I've got Speed comics. I've got the Spirit of '76. I've got man, I got some cool stuff. I'll have to show you one day. I'll bring here. We'll sit at this table with some drinks.
You show me yours, I'll show you mine. But I don't have any.
oh my. But the point is, it's a different generation that they were originally made for. So then the writers had to try to adapt. That's why the '60s had a whole different feel.
Right.
I remember as a kid, it was the weirdest thing. Why was Superman always eating something on the cover? I always remember seeing Superman with his jaws full, like he's eating stone or eating kryptonite or something funny. They had him eting. There must have been a weird thing in the '60s.
Right. Yeah, maybe it was sponsored by somebody or so. But and so. When you work for Marvel and you do your first stuff, and how does it work when do you like go to DC, or do they approach you, or is there really that rivalry between them, or is it like everybody likes each other, or?
No, this is what you don't understand, and nobody understands unless you're working for them. There's an editorial rivalry. Like, in other words, and that's what makes it so hard for artists.
Right.
Like, as a writer, you can do maybe 3 books a month you can write, or so, maybe 4.
Yeah.
As a comic book artist, man, there's so much time invested sitting at the board. Like, if you get a page done per day, you're good. But a page done per day means that you're working for the entire month. You're busy on a book.
Right.
Rare do you have your John Burns or your Jack Kirby's that can do more.
Yeah. He did like 3 pages a day or something.
Yeah. Both of them were able to do something like that.
And both. I'm a John. He's like a controversial guy, like John Byrne, isn't he? I mean, I really love him.
I met him 3 times, and all 3 times he was wonderful to me, and I showed him my work, and he was nice, very nice.
I like his run on Fantastic Four. I love it.
I say I love his run on Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that was the Fantastic Four I read as a kid, because the Dutch comics, and that was the John Byrne stuff, and I loved it.
They were fantastic. But what happens is, like, when you're working in the business, there's an editorial rivalry. I remember working for Dan Raspler, on JLA. He knew I was a full-time firefighter, and he knew he couldn't have me on the series regular, but he put me in with an issue working with Mark Waid, and then later I did an annual with Brian K. Vaughan and other stuff. But I remember, like, I would sometimes maybe pitch some of my work, show other editors, and he'd hear about it, and it was like, hey, well, why are you with Joey Cavallari? I got more work for you. And all editors were like that. Like, you would be in there within their posse or whatever. Point is, the way the business works, and that's what fans don't understand. And when the editor disappears, when the editor is either fired or moves on to something else. I remember working for one editor who's amazing. I was doing Jimmy Olsen issue of Jimmy Olsen. And he calls me. He said, "Steve," he said, "I just want to let you know I'm working for Disney as of now. I gave my notice, but now your new editor. I'm passing you on to finish this book with this person." Well, I have no connections with them. Basically, it's not like basically, he's saying, and find another editor now because I'm gone. But that's what people don't understand about the business. Not so much. If anything, like, it does help if you got another publisher wanting you. Like, if I call it dating game.
Right.
In comics was the dating game. If no one wants you, then no one wants you. But if they have you drawing X-Men Forever with Chris Claremont, DC editors will be like, oh, well, we want to pry him. Even the other editors want to pry you from that. They're like, it's a rivalry thing.
Right,
like,
right.
He must be the pretty girl now. We want to take him away from working on X-Men.
Does that work in every aspect of entertainment business?
I think it does.
I think in TV it works like a little bit
you're only wanted if you're wanted.
Yeah.
The way it works.
And even if nobody knows you, but somebody says, well, he's good, and then somebody else as well, it doesn't even have to be good. It's word of mouth.
It's the assumption and the word of mouth.
Yeah.
It's you are assumed really good. Exactly.
And the other thing is also with TV producers, and it's a little bit the same thing. I recognize that. Yeah.
Well, Neil Gaiman, I think, was the one that summed it up. I think it was him. I might be quoting the wrong person, but he said, there's three things that you have to have, but any two of those three, you're fine. You have to be really super talented, or really, really liked and they like you a lot,
right?
Or very fast at producing and on time, or even before time.
Yeah.
If you fail at any one of them, you're still good. You think about it. You're still good. But if you fail at two, then you can forget it.
I think that is for a lot of businesses. There's similarities between lots of businesses, even comic books. Because there's also not many people, me included, know the combination between a penciler and an inker. The Kevin Smith movies make fun of it, like you're a tracer. Like stuff like that. And then I read about this one guy who did lots of Kirby stuff, and he's really fast, but he butchered it.
Vinnie Coletta.
Well, exactly.
The other story about Vinnie Coletta, and even I knew a bit about this from one of my friends. I was with an agent, and I'll say,
yeah.
The artist who inspired me to want to draw comics one day. Yeah. We later worked under the same agent, and we got to travel together, and we became good friends.
Okay, nice.
He had a Vinnie Coletta story. Vinnie Coletta, and this is well known. Vinnie Coletta was also like...
maybe for the people who doesn't know, he was the inker of lots of people, including Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And the stuff I have seen, I've actually seen it because some people have shown it on the internet, or there's even a book about it. I have the book, but I've not read it completely. But when there's maybe somebody in the background, lots of buildings, and he just made it black. Because it was faster. He was a really nice and fast guy.
Well, again, and editorially, that's called for sometimes. You know, hey, we just need it fast.
You need the deadline.
But he also was, let's say mafia.
Oh, really?
And his thing.
Oh, he's got an Italian name.
And his thing was he knew how to hook people up with prostitutes.
Oh, really?
So. He had another inside that you don't even know about. So, like I said, that was a fascinating thing with him.
And that's why he kept working.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Wow.
But again, he also, realistically, he was very fast, and he would get the job done.
And sometimes he did good work, but sometimes...
Most of the time, what they want it to be ready for publication on time, because then they're going to catch hell if it's not on time. And that's the biggest key. So... As much as, he wasn't the best inker, he used to ink my friend Mike Grell on Warlord. Okay. And I'm inking Mike Grell right now, which is a weird thing, but he used to ink him, and Mike used to hate that, oh God, it was given to Vinnie Coletta.
Right.
But we as fans, when we looked at it, I remember saying, it looked pretty good, Mike puts a lot of crosshatch and a lot of long lines in there, and Vinnie did put it, but they didn't have the same soul and heart that Mike put in it.
And I think there's just one past, what's his name? Another guy who worked for...
Joe Sinnott.
Yeah, he just passed away, didn't he?
Yes. Joe Sinnott was, his work was so pristine. He was like the atypical comic book artist inker. His brush work was just, it was ideal.
Right.
It was really ideal.
He did lots of stuff. And so how is the relationship between a penciler and an inker? You've done both.
It's everything. I've done both. And like when I'm working on a series myself, like I can pencil and ink myself, but I'd much rather just pencil in that I'm tired of the page once I've drawn it.
Right.
Then I have to come back and ink it. Oh.
Right, yeah.
But I've got Rodney Ramos is my friend that's a really good inker that we have a good relationship. So I'll always, if I can get us work, it's also a teamwork. Like, hey, he recently got me work. What I'm working on right now, I got pencil boards up, Liberty Brigade. It's of 1940s, 30s, and 40s public domain characters. And the publisher is, he's from New York, but he lives also in the Netherlands sometimes.
Okay.
Like I'm drawing De Cat, who is the Netherlands version of the Black Cat.
Catwoman. Yeah,
Catwoman.
so Catwoman, and one of my favorite Dutch artists has done that as well.
See, there you go. But
Martin Lodewijk did
she's
a
public. She's public domain.
She's public domain.
So I'm working on that right now. But that was a gig gotten for me by Rodney, and Rodney and I get gigs for Rodney, and we're friends, and he's always got my back. And,
right.
But like you know, we just worked on the John Carpenter project together with Steve Niles.
Right.
Steve Niles, and it's coming out in September. I could not do it without bringing in Rodney, because I said, you know, I got to have my inker. And they let me pick my inker and my colorist, Laverne Kanzierski, who was also colorist on the Graveyard.
Right, this book, the Neil Gaiman Graveyard book.
Yes. Which
I'll put some works of you in the description so people
sure,
can...
Sure. So anyway, I've been very fortunate, like lately in my career, I've been able to pick my team.
Right.
I've been really lucky. When I worked on Normandy Gold for Titan Comics, I brought in Rodney as my inker.
That one's in Making Strip, waiting for me as we speak.
It's really good crime drama.
It's a crime drama, yeah?
Set in the 70s, and I enjoyed it. I remember, you know, as a kid in the 70s, like there's a lot of stuff I remember from my mother that I was able to use in this as far as for the character Normandy. Yeah, it was fun. And so I did the first issue myself, pencils and inks, but I said no. I said I gotta have help on this.
Right.
And I produced Normandy Gold in 3 different countries.
Oh,
I started off in America. I did one of the issues in Paris, and cover in Paris, and then the final part of it was here in Antwerp.
Wow. So it's a globe-trotting...
When I look at Normandy Gold, I think of that, yes.
And when you're an inker, when you do the inking, how much of your creativity, how does that work? Because for idiots like me, it looks like tracing. But then you figure out the physical editing, and then you see it's way more than
well, what's happened to me, my pencils before I became also a combination of inking myself used to be tighter, too tight, almost like too tight. Now I pencil looser because I know I'm going to go ahead and work in some extra stuff. Kind of got an example. Mike Grell, I'm working with him on the Pilgrim. I've just finished it. Literally, it's going to press this week.
Right.
And so I had to finish off 11 pages of his layouts, meaning they were very loose layouts, but the information was there. So what I did, I enlarged it, and I detailed it out further in pencil on the back of the board to give myself enough information to ink by. I flip that board over so I don't have to erase anymore, and I do it on a light box, and I start my inking process. And it allows me to put in the extra details I need, but not over. But I still put a lot of the drawing. Here's an example.
Yeah.
You can hold one in and see how big this is.
Wow.
First, it's taped on the back, but you can see where on the back, hold that in. Here you can see on the back where I penciled it. I don't know if the light is too much to where you can't see it, but you can see I detailed it out further and worked out some kinks in pencils, but it's still loose. Because I knew on the front I was going to really be doing, you know, all the rest of the detail work. This is a double page spread. Again, keeping the feel of Mike Grell, like all of this right here just rings Mike Grell. But I had to really do a lot of drawing for this. I did a lot of drawing for that, and all of this is pretty much me. There was an indication of Mike's in there. This spilt beer, and that's not good.
No worries.
No worries. Anyway, but let me put this up now because I made a mess. But anyway, that shows. Let's make sure that this. Yes. Look at me.
No worry.
Okay.
Upla.
I've never had a podcast mishap in my life.
That's no problem.
But only a tiny bit of the beer drops.
So you still have the beer. So that's.
So anyway, that gives you an indication about what has to go into it, though.
Right.
And so, like I work. My steps when I'm working is I do start off with thumbnails. I work out all the problem solving there. I bring it up to breakdown level, where I draw the comic at actual print size. This gives me an idea of where things are going to fit compositionally, and most importantly, will there be enough room for dialogue and everything that has to be done. When I worked with Chris Claremont on X-Men and Exiles and things like that, I had to make sure there's room. You've read Chris Claremont before. Yeah,
it's a lot of dialogue.
Well, he would give me a plot. He works plot first, but you know that it's Chris Claremont, so you try your best to go ahead and give him room you know, to work his magic.
Wow.
So yeah, like with Mike Grell,
and
I
how
know
much?
there's a script
So
in advance.
the pages are, because that
You
will
see how big that is?
Yeah, so that will be turned into this.
That would be turned into a double page
And that's
spread.
the normal. That's a spread. Yeah.
These are two A3s. These are two A3s that are put together to make that.
Right.
Yeah, to make that.
So
style.
that's normal. That's the normal.
Oh, that's
One A3 is one. What's the side? What's the?
Well, it's American size. I don't even know what it is.
No.
But you know, pamphlet. So, but the point is, yeah, that's how big it is. And this way, you have room to make your mistakes. I like to use mainly a brush, but I use pen as well. But with the brush, you can actually get that thickness of line in places to put illusion of depth. We're working on a flat surface and we're creating illusion. That there are people here, there are cars here, there are sound effects.
Is that stuff you hate to draw? Is that stuff you say, no cars or no hands or...
horses were difficult at first, but I made it work. Like I did, when I drew She-Hulk, Valkyrie was in it, so I had to then be like, okay, I've got to draw or Pegasus.
Yeah.
But you look, I know how to look for reference. You know, this particular page, no, not this one. There's another page that had Hitler. I'd never drawn Hitler in my entire life. I had to look it up. When I worked on Indiana Jones,
you did Indiana Jones. Yeah.
I had to research and make sure everything was set in 1936 for that issue. I was 1936 or older. There's a scene. There's an icebreaker, icebreaker going through the Antarctic.
Right.
There's only one picture of what that icebreaker is, and it's from a far distance. I had to make up everything else, but I had to figure out what would be on a 1930s vessel. You know, sometimes you don't have. I had to do a double-page spread of Manhattan with a building being built, and you had we did that typical scene of all the workers on a girder eating, you know, and all that.
Yeah.
I did that in there. But I had to make sure it was 1936 Manhattan.
Right.
You couldn't have buildings that didn't exist, so I had to do my research. The research that goes in, especially when I did Indiana Jones.
Yeah, of course.
I was so proud of it because I gotta say I did a good job on it. It felt like you're watching an Indiana Jones movie in a comic form.
Those as well. Apart from the Star Wars comics, I read the Indiana Jones comics as well. When
John Byrne was on that.
Yeah.
Oh, he started in Herb Trimpe and all that.
Yeah.
There's something else people don't know about comics sometimes. I did like Kyle XY, and this is when I first found out. It was in between seasons 1 and 2 of Kyle XY. They did a Comic-Con exclusive comic,
right?
You know, to bridge it, and I drew it. Well, sometimes, like, you know, when you pick up a comic and say, well, this doesn't look like Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. This artist did an awful job. Well, sometimes they don't have the rights for the likeness.
Oh, okay.
And like when I did Kyle XY, they said we have the rights to the main actor. It needs to look like him. But like the character that plays his sister and her sister's boyfriend and blah, 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 make it the essence of them. And I'm like, essence? So yeah, so whenever
you
sometimes...
don't have the rights.
Yeah. Well, like when I did the...
I thought sometimes, and maybe that's true as well, sometimes because I collect like 80s movie adaptations. Comic book movie adaptations.
I used to love that.
And I've got lots of stuff.
Indiana Jones was one of those.
Conan.
Anyway,
Conan, Blade Runner, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, all that stuff. But sometimes they really don't look like their characters, and then I thought maybe it's because they don't have the rights, but I thought maybe because sometimes there's scenes in it that isn't even in the movie.
Right.
They base it on the script.
Right, and Al Williamson was a king at being
right.
able to get away
I love that.
beautiful work on it. He was
I've got this large alien book with the original pages
from Alien?
From Alien.
I thought Walt Simonson did the
That's
Alien.
Walt Simonson.
I love his work too. But Al Williamson did Empire Strikes Back, and he did, he did Blade Runner adaptation.
Yeah.
He was my go-to of thinking about how do I want to handle Indiana Jones, and I still have to draw like me. I can't be an Al Williamson. Al Williamson's amazing, but and classically, trained. But like a friend of mine, Mark Texiera, he got to do, and I envy him. I envy him this because. The most 80s film I remember when I was in the 80s was Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, I've got the.
He did the comic book adaptation.
Oh, really? I own that.
And he got to go to California. They had like the screening or something.
I love that movie.
He met John Lithgow, and I'm like, oh,
he did.
Jeff Goldblum,
wow.
and I'm like, man, Everybody
love that movie. Love the adaptation.
Listen to me. Check out Find Buckaroo Banzai. You're going to be amazed at all the actors that are in there before they became popular.
Right, exactly.
Before they became popular.
And it's like a superhero thing, and everybody knows it.
Corny science fiction.
And I think it was a little bit. It was a hit in America, but not outside America. Because I've not seen it in the 80s. I've just picked it up like 10 or 15 years ago.
But it's so very 80s.
I love that movie.
I know.
I love that movie.
It's fun.
And I love the comic book adaptation. I own that.
See, I don't have it, but I remember talking to Tex one time. You know, we were touring Europe. He goes, "Yeah, I did the adaptation of that." And I was like, "What?
Wow, that's so cool."
Yeah, I was like, "Wow, I would have loved to have been in that time period and doing it." Because what happened back then, you didn't have immediately available on the internet or available for DVD after a movie came out. Right. Now, like within 2 months or less, you'll have it on DVD.
Yeah, maybe you have to maybe have digital photos or whatever.
Something, yeah.
And also because I think the Empire Strikes Back one, it's been redrawn, but originally Yoda looked way more like the Ralph McQuarrie.
I know about that.
Yoda.
I know about that. That's right.
And they redraw it, and because they didn't have the comic had to be released at the same time as the movie was released. Right. So they didn't have the pictures. They didn't they know Princess Leia, but the new character looked like the Ralph McQuarrie drawings.
And when they did the Star Wars comic, which to me was like legendary, the first Star Wars comic. Yeah. It was Howard Chaykin. I met Howard for the first time a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And
just checking if everything's good.
Go ahead, check to see if everything's going.
Yeah, it's still going. Yeah, we're okay. Yeah.
When you went up there, I'd love for you to say, "Are you in there? Are you in there?
You still here?
Are you still in there?" But anyway, yes. Howard Chaykin had practically nothing to go by. He might have had some little stills here and there, but he didn't know what the heck was going on.
I think he got the Ralph McQuarrie stuff as well.
Probably
because the Darth Vader looked a bit weird.
But is the most he can do. Oh, his Chewbacca never was.
Right, Chewbacca was pure Ralph McQuarrie.
Yeah, but Chewbacca never looked like the Chewbacca.
No,
he did because he only had the stuff to go by.
Yeah,
you know they have to work in advance. Like by at least a 2-month schedule in advance. And I don't know what they did back then.
And the cool thing is that the comic books that came after are way out there, and they did lots of stuff. And of course, Luke and Leia kissing and stuff, and of course because. Nobody knew.
No one knew.
Fucking George Lucas didn't even know.
No.
I really I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. I know.
Because if you already knew, you wouldn't have let them kiss. It
was a last minute decision. Probably somebody gave me the idea and he goes, "Ooh, that's a good idea. Let me do that."
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's not planned in advance. No, not at all. So do you sometimes? No. First, it's when a writer gives you a page. Does he have like a script, or does he draw little panels and does everybody have?
I never get the drawn panels, but I get like I'll either get a script or a plot. Like I did a strip in Spain, and Diego he speaks no English, so he would send me a description of every 4-page supplement. It was a Sunday page, so it was a full page, but he'd give me it 4 pages at a time, which I'm not used to receiving a story that way. Because I like to know what the whole story is. I can plan like these little panel where I'm like, okay, I'm giving an indicator to the reader that, hey, pay attention to this because 5 pages down or 10 pages along,
you need this bit of information.
You need this information. Yeah. So it was difficult because of our language barrier. But I'm about to. I want to finish that. I've talked to him about finishing that because it was really great horror stuff. But I think I want to write the rest of it. I got to talk to him about that.
Okay.
But normally you'll get either a plot, which is what I got from Chris Claremont, was a plot. Jay Faber, when I worked on New Warriors, was plot first. He asked me which I prefer, and I said, well, let me try plot. That sounds fun. Everybody else, like Mark Waid and all, was a script, but it was the scripts are the same with every writer that I've ever dealt with. Has been really good.
Does this say page 2 has to be this, or does it say has to have so many panels? Or
yeah, it'll be like that. It'll be like page 2. Maybe they may say 5-panel page. When I'm breaking down the book, I put down like page 2, and I put how many panels it's going to be, because this way in my head I'm already arranging the panel arrangement in my head as I read it. What do I need?
Yeah.
Where's more dialogue go, or what's the more bigger event that happens here that needs to be paid attention to?
Right.
But it'll say like panel 1, you know, the two characters are walking down the hall, and then dialogue, Sarah, blah blah blah, Matt, blah blah blah, and then panel 2, a ghost comes through the wall,
right,
and they're terrified, and then you know, I mean, that's how it works out, just a breakdown like that, you know, with dialogue. And this way I have an idea what the dialogue is, so I know facial expression, you know, what to do,
right,
and then also I can manipulate. I have to think about when breaking it down, top to bottom dialogue, word balloons, left to right, because that's how we do it. So I have to sometimes arrange my camera angles, because hey, now he is talking. He speaks first. She speaks second. So I need to make it to. You can't have the word balloons do this.
No.
That's bad storytelling. It's the reader is instantly confused and doesn't know what to do. Once the reader forgets that they're reading a comic book, you failed. Or once they realize. No, once they realize the other way around. Once they realize that they're reading it, you fail. You put them into the world where they forget that, and it's comfortable. The lettering is where it should be. Every element of a comic book is important, down to the lettering, in my opinion. Absolutely.
Totally,
yeah. So, but it's fun. That's part of what I love about it. And some of it now has become such secondhand to me that I forget that it's something I just know.
Yeah.
You know, you forget that, oh, I could kind of do that in my sleep. I used to not be. And there's still, the beauty of it also is I'm always learning. I'm always learning. The Liberty Brigade that I'm working on right now, I'm making it feel like a 1940s style, because it is 1940s characters. I just did a story that dealt with the Nazi villains, or the, well, they were Nazi and the Japanese.
Okay.
I drew some stuff that by all standards would be like, oh, that's kind of racist. But I had to draw the characters the way they were back then. Yeah. You know, and the Japanese ones had these mustaches like this, and they're very stereotyped. But that's the way those characters were at the time.
Right, exactly.
So, but I did it, and I did it in such a way thinking of the 1940s. I love those Golden Age comics because they were the start of it all. Yeah. You know, good or bad, they started it all with all the quirks. They paved the way that we built upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, look, I got that. I've got a horror story from John Carpenter Presents.
Right.
And I'm doing...
It's going to be out in 2 months, isn't it?
It's going to be out in less than 2 months.
Oh.
But then also the stuff...
It's got John Carpenter's name on it, but how does that work?
Well, I worked with Sandy, his wife. She's the publisher.
Okay.
And Steve Niles got me the gig. I mean, literally. Pay attention on Facebook sometimes. Steve mentioned, he's a friend of mine. I worked with him on The Creeper from DC Comics.
Okay.
Hey, what is everybody working on right now? And I posted underneath that thread, that post on Facebook. I said, well, unfortunately, nothing. I'm looking for some work right now. I said, and that was it. And he private messaged me. I think I got an idea. Would you be interested? And he pitched it to me, and it was like, oh, hell yeah. Because this is like Twilight Zone. It's like a science fiction Twilight Zone or Black Mirror. If you like that, you'll enjoy this. You know? And so I'm like, oh, I'm all for that. I love horror. Right. And science fiction combined with it? Yeah, okay, I'm here. So I got the gig, you know, and knowing that it was from John Carpenter's publishing company, who... man, you know my age. I've mentioned earlier, John Carpenter was like the director at that time in my growing up. Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing. I mean, the list goes on. John Carpenter.
Escape from New York.
And he did his own. He did his own like.
Yeah. We were talking about his music because we did a podcast about Ennio Morricone, and Ennio Morricone worked on The Thing.
Oh,
but there's like a little discussion going on how much of it is Ennio Morricone, how much of it John Carpenter himself.
Yeah, of course.
Because it sounds John Carpenter-y. Sounds.
I thought it was John Carpenter.
No, it is Ennio Morricone as well.
Wow, cool. Yeah. I didn't know that.
So we were talking about it last week. So yeah.
So there was for me it was a nice feeling to be working with that publishing company.
Right.
And I tried, even at the time, I presented to them the idea of saying, hey, look, how about if I possibly can be put on board and agent you guys and work on with conventions and flying you in. You know, back when, remember those comic book conventions that you'd have?
Yeah.
Where you get to meet like directors and actors and comic book artists?
Yeah.
Oh, the good old days.
Yes.
Oh my God, I miss them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But I mentioned to them about doing that, you know, because I'm thinking, you know, hey, people would love to meet John Carpenter.
Didn't Steve Niles, was he in Antwerp a couple of months
Actually,
ago?
this is so funny.
I think he signed a comic book for me.
I was in Antwerp, and he went to Mechanic, but it had not been advertised to where I saw it. And he is a friend of mine. I'd met him many times before and worked with him.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he was at Mechanic, and I was right walking distance down the road.
Oh, no.
That was a short walk. But, you know, I mean, you know, when I talked to him, I mentioned to him before working on this, hey, you know, you went to the Mechanic. I said, hey, my girlfriend works across the street from there.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So I was like, darn it, you know. I said, we could have met up.
Yeah.
He's a really super nice guy.
Well, I love the 30 Days of Night stuff.
That was great. And it was a joy to work on the Creeper with, just to work with him, you know, working on the Creeper.
So that's the stuff you're working on now is the John Carpenter thing. Liberty Bell you mentioned.
Liberty Brigade.
Liberty Brigade.
I'm currently still working on Liberty Brigade. I'm almost done with that work. And then I just finished The Pilgrim, which is actor Mark Ryan, who was in Black Sails, and he's the voice of Bumblebee.
Okay.
Wrote The Pilgrim. And Mike Grell is the artist on it. But what happened was Mike, he had done a lot of the work, but he didn't finish like the last 11 pages of it, and also a poster. And so they hired me on to do those finishes to work with him, and like I just showed you a double-page spread from that. Most of them were double-page spreads like that. For me, though, my childhood was also Warlord and Mike Grell. So I get to work again with one of my childhood, actually.
So cool.
But he and I become good friends. He's like my dad now.
Okay.
He would say older brother because, you know. But he's like my dad. Oh my God, Mike Grell. He's the most amazing
the thing
man.
what I have here in the comedy that people you look up to or think they're the best ever, they're friends now because they played here and they call me on the phone and like the 15 years ago I was watching their DVDs, you know, and now they're friends of mine.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
So the same thing, yeah.
But for me to actually also be working with him, I mean, I set him up for a tour one year here in Europe, and it was me, him, and Mark Teixeira. And we toured together, but I mean, I had known him before, but we really bonded at that time, you know. I mean, he's such an amazing guy. And again, Warlord, Green Arrow, the Arrow TV series owes itself to him. His writing that he did to formulate the origin story and things like that for Green Arrow, and also his Green Lantern. Recently, and I went to Mechanic. I'm going to talk about Mechanic a lot here because that's a damn good comic shop.
It is.
It is. So anyway, but I went to Mechanic. I ordered the 80-year anniversary for Green Lantern.
Right.
And
I got the joke one. Yeah.
He did the very last Denny O'Neil story ever written before Denny passed away. Nobody knew he was passing away or passed away, but he passed away. And I read that, and it's an honor to me that I was literally currently inking Mike Grell work at my board. Currently working with him and got to read his Green Lantern, Green Arrow story written by Denny O'Neil.
Wow.
And colored by my colorist, Laverne Konzierski.
Oh, wow.
So I had two of my good friends and my cohorts in crime on that one story.
That's so cool.
That was a lot of fun.
So that was another question. So I can imagine that when you write and work in comics, do you still read comics? Do you still collect comics?
I don't collect anymore, but I read as often as I can. For instance, that Graveyard Book adaptation that you got there is a damn good read. I mean, I'm like, that was one of those things where, wow, that was just such an honor to be a part of, even though it's only 4 pages, but that was a wonderful read.
Right.
But I do. I enjoy, like, there's my girlfriend bought me some English copies that I haven't got a chance to read yet of Agent 13.
That's the one I'm talking about. Agent 13.
It's called 13. It's just called 13, but it's Agent.
Oh, right. No. Agent 13. Yeah, it's 13.
13.
That's yeah.
But the artwork.
It's XYYY.
Yeah. The artwork was so beautiful in it that I'm like, what is this about? I want to read it. She found some at the Mechanic. She found some for my birthday of copies of that.
Right.
I did the quarantine birthday, of course. You know, we are under quarantine.
No, that's a really famous European comic.
But artwork is beautiful. I looked up the history of the artist, and I looked up even what the artwork goes for. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all done big size, like in the golden age of the comics. When I show you these old 1940s pages, you're gonna let one page is the size of this, like that, you know. So yeah, but anyway, so I love that. I love a lot of stuff. I used to read heavy metal magazine. You know, we were talking about what I used to read when I was a kid. I used to pick up heavy metal, and I remember that there's something called Gypsy that was printed in heavy metal, you know, English edition. That's the only way we got an English version of some of these beautiful European volumes. And that's what my goal is now. I want to do some like those 50-page European volumes. I've got some ideas that I haven't
and write it yourself.
discussed. Yes, one of them would be writing myself, drawing it, and Hannah has been practicing colors, and she's doing a great job of it. So a couple project.
Right.
And I'm happy to say that would be wonderful. But there's another thing with the strip, The Call of the Earth, from Spain. I want to make it one of the ones where I'm also going to be doing some of the writing myself, but definitely finishing up on coloring. I started coloring. I did all of it, pencils, inks, and colors. So I want to do that, jump on that, and I'm going to try to do some stuff through. It's Masterstroke Studios is what Mike Grell is doing right now with my friend Jeff, who's editing, and I'm going to really be pushing some of even the John Sable freelance to presenting it to some of the European publishers, because it's never been published in Dutch or German, and they have all of that. And there was a short-lived TV show of John Sable freelance before. No, nobody knows. No. Exactly, it was short-lived. Anyway, but how many of us have ever had anything become a TV show one day? I can't say I have.
No. That's
pretty good stuff.
That's the coolest. Yeah, absolutely. So, and what are the if somebody asks you what are the comics you draw what you're most proud of, which ones would they?
Definitely, I was proud on how I handled Marvel Adventures Hulk.
Right.
Because I really was true to the 1970s feel that Herb Trimpe was putting out.
Right. Yeah.
And Indiana Jones.
Right.
And actually my current work, especially
Indiana Jones for a while.
Dark Horse.
Was that Dark Horse? Yeah.
Dark Horse.
Because it was around.
The Tomb of the Gods, the Tomb of the Gods. It's a bittersweet. I remember going. You always remember where you were and what you were doing at the time. I was going through a divorce at that time when I got that gig, and then so you know you remember like, oh God, man, bad times. But I do remember sitting at the board, knowing I was drawing Indiana Jones, and while I'm drawing, I've got the theme song in my head the whole time.
Of course.
Dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. And if you look at it, like I said, it looks like a mini movie. You know, it was James Peaty, I believe, was the writer.
And you also did Judge Dredd, apparently, for IDW.
I did a backup story that was done that was didn't have him in his traditional helmet and all. He was going to a prison planet outside of Saturn, and I didn't get to do the traditional, but I did it the way I wanted to draw it. And then later I was given a few issues of the series, but the way the series was drawn, it was still going to be colored by the colorist. It was the artist colorist, and he's very heavy-handed colorist in a good way. He does great work. So I said, hey, I'm going to try a different style. I went more cartoony, more exaggerated, because I knew he could fill it very well,
right?
You know, and make it look. And so I did something different with it. But I did do that. But I'd like to return to Judge Dredd one day and do it my way. You know,
well, I wanted because
colors and everything.
I've seen what you've done, and I've seen on the internet, and I really love the issue. There's this I think it's issue 25.
Yeah, we talked about this. I love
issue 25.
I know what you're talking about.
And it's I found it on eBay, so I bought it. It's not here yet, but you draw yourself as a Judge Dredd on it.
Well, the cover artist was the guy. I think that was the cover artist that was the regular artist normally on it. But yes, I'm one of the judges.
Yeah, it's like
me and Chris Ryle, and
it looks like a page from a newspaper.
It was awesome. And the other thing is, oh my God, I'm a geek nerd. The other thing is, when I was on tour in Europe and I was finishing up the tour in London at the time, I think I'd left Malta, and anyway, I picked my copy up at Forbidden Planet.
Right.
Which Forbidden Planet.
It's the best.
So here I am. I finally got published with Judge Dredd, where my name is on the cover.
Yeah, in English.
And I picked it up in
English. One of the English.
I know. But like I said, I've gotten lucky in my career. There's been some lucky points that I'm like... I did the adaptation of Batman Dark Knight, the Christopher Nolan Batman Dark Knight. The only adaptation done of it for comics was nothing. It was nothing more than the opening scene for the movie.
Right.
But it was printed and put in as a special collected, special Blu-ray edition DVD of Batman Begins.
I think I own that.
And I'm the artist on that. And it was Christopher Nolan oversaw that comic. And when he did, it was supposed to be part of a pamphlet that also was behind-the-scenes stuff too. But he said, nope. He said, this guy did a good job. I'm quoting what my editor told me. He says, give him a cover to do as well. And let's do it as a separate comic that also offer in it. So I also got an extra bit of work out of that because Christopher
Nolan loved your work.
Yeah.
And that was that was the opening scene from Dark Knight, which was in
the bank robbery, bank heist scene with everybody wearing clown masks.
Yeah.
And then he took off his mask finally, and you see
his
Joker.
Because we did a Joker podcast, and I researched a little bit that the mask Heath Ledger is wearing is a reference to the mask the original Joker is wearing in the first appearance of him on TV.
No, I didn't know that.
It is.
On TV or like
so the TV. So George
did
Romero.
They have him ever in a movie? Was he in everything?
He was in the movie as well. But you know the movie was made between the first and the second season.
Yeah.
Of the 60s Batman.
Right.
And the first episode with the Joker was in the first season. And he's on a television thing and he reveals a mask.
I never knew
puts
that.
a mask off, and that's the same mask Heath Ledger is wearing.
Honestly, I'd love to hear that. That's amazing stuff.
There's always so many.
Have you ever seen any of the black and white Batmans from the 1940s movies?
I have.
They're like little.
I've got them on DVD.
Like you dirty rat.
Yeah.
And
they're constantly trying. Because the mask doesn't fit very well, so it slits it before his eyes all the time.
But they're so fun.
It's so funny.
They're so fun because they
40s and
1940s. But he's got a gun, and everybody's like gangsters with a gun in those cars. But I found them online. You can find everything on YouTube. Yeah. And there was when I first discovered them, I'm like, wow, this is fun.
They're a little bit. I think they're made like those Buck Rogers serials.
They're made like them or like the gangster popular gangster films were all the rage back.
I think there's two or three, and there's the last one is 49. It's called Batman and Robin. It's got Robin as well.
Yeah, that's the one I caught. Was that one then because it had Robin? That was the one I caught.
But they're really that's
it's corny fun though.
It's so very fun.
It's corny fun.
All right. Well, okay. So we already talked about it a little bit, but if you can say those three guys were definitely the biggest influences on me. Who would that be?
Okay, the first was Michael Golden. That's the reason why I decided, hey,
from
Micronauts.
Yeah.
That's when I said, oh wow, this drawing looks different than all the other drawing.
Right.
And then I was like, I want to do that. I want to be that guy. Which is hard when you're first inspired by somebody. You want to be that guy. So you're copying styles and things like that. You're not who you are until you're actually making deadlines and you're having to find your own shortcuts and your own techniques.
Yeah.
And sometimes that'll change based on if I'm doing a horror story, a crime story, or a superhero story.
Right.
How I present it. I learned that storytelling is number one.
Right.
My other influence really was Mike Grell. And again, now, like a dear friend. I talk to him on the regular, call him up in Alabama.
Yeah.
His girlfriend is a good friend of mine, as Mary. And his Warlord, and the fact that he wrote and drew this character and had that for so many years, DC Comics, and it was nothing like any other character. Warlord was, basically it was Hollow Earth theory. He basically flew to Hollow Earth and he discovered the world of magic and everything. He was another inspiration to me, and just knowing him and having him as a dear friend is just so. He's like a mentor. I'm working with my mentor right now, and that's.
Well, man, look, something.
I'm 52 years old. But I'm 17 years old again, or 12 years old, working with Mike Grell. I'm like, oh, I can't believe. So anyhow, I better not mess this up.
Yeah.
Again, you had mentioned Wally Wood. Wally Wood had the most. He had a hell of an amazing work ethic.
Yeah.
But yet also the most tragic story, and that is true to the arts. You have the people that are creatively amazing, but also aren't business savvy.
Right.
Frank Miller is very business savvy.
Absolutely.
Jim Lee, very good businnnman. Todd McFarlane, amazing businessman. Wally Wood was every bit as talented in different ways than all of those people, but yet, it's still tragic story.
Right.
A friend of mine, Russ Heath, who's recently passed away, a good friend, had mentioned to me. He said that he was at a party with Wally before he passed away. And, his liver damage and all was just,
right.
And he said he couldn't be near him. He said that, when all of that's going, your body is putting out then your urine throughout your body. So there's that, and he was, it was horrible. He said he was so sad. He said he just couldn't eat. Oh my God! So again, but those three,
right.
One of which is definitely, but like I said, Mike is just a legend. Mike Grell. both Mikes, Mike Grell and Mike Golden, but Mike Grell has been on. He'll share stories with you saying, "Oh, my second safari to Africa," and I'm like, "What?" You know. And he did acting in those those things where they do the Knights of the Round Table type things where you have a dinner and you watch people joust.
Right, yeah.
He was an actor in that for some amount of years.
Really?
After doing Warlord and that for DC Comics, he took a break from the comics and became an actor in one of those type of things.
Wow.
He's an amazing man. Oh,
have you ever just thought about it? Because you're also a movie lover, apparently. Yeah, well, but it's very...
I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
We could talk video games for a half hour if you want to.
I'm not a video game person.
I am. I was playing Pong when I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
In a little lounge in Biloxi, Mississippi. Pong. I started with Pong. I'm old school. Anyway,
I always have to think of. I know nothing about Biloxi, but there's a great movie I love, Biloxi Blues, with Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, I think that place, Keesler Air Force Base, was my very first job when I was in high school.
Oh, really?
I worked at the NCO club as a dishwasher, then later bus boy, then I was head bus boy. Ooh,
wow.
I mean, I had benefits.
Yeah.
Then I decided to make more money to be a waiter.
Okay.
So anyway, point is, I used to work there.
Okay,
Air Force Base.
Yeah, Biloxi Blues. It's a good movie with Matthew Broderick, and it was a play. It is a play, and he did the play before, and there where he met Alan Ruck, and then they both did Ferris Bueller Day Off.
Now, see, I either segued us away from movies, or you just brought it back to movies.
No, I brought it back to movies because
perfectly well done.
I know a lot. Some comic book artists also do like storyboards.
Yeah.
Have you ever done storyboards?
I actually, oddly enough, I did. Okay, when I was back in Dallas, Georgia, after coming here to Antwerp, I went back to the States, and I was in Dallas, Georgia, and a good friend of mine, his son worked on sets of a TV series, and he said he was wanting me to show him how to possibly do storyboards. I'd never done them before myself, but I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So I made his sample for him, literally made his sample for him, and he got the job, he got the gig. But then he refused it because he was making more money doing the special effects on the scene, so he didn't want to take it. So I literally got somebody a gig doing storyboards, because I did them.
Right.
But I've never done it. I've never done it professionally.
Right.
I can do it. I know how.
And that was for a television show or
a television series, yeah, that he was working on. He also was working on The Watchmen, doing special effects. So it wasn't for The Watchmen. It was for something else. It was some kind of a teenage type thing, but it was I don't know. I can't remember what it was exactly now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's considered a good job, but I love.
It is, and the reason is, I mean, we already train ourselves for storytelling. We do. I think in terms of like when I'm reading something, how am I where's the camera gonna be? You know, I always think camera angles. Where am I placing the viewer? So I know how to do it, and but there's still a language within it that you have to provide. You know, arrows like the camera's panning this way. There's little indicators for that. But the weird thing is that if you're very egotistical and you want people to see your work, they will never see your work.
No,
you're just making money.
Well, except when you do Star Wars, because because you can't make enough money of Star Wars, and I bought the Star Wars storyboards.
I got to see some of them. I was in Paris at the time, and at the Louvre, they had an exhibit about villains in history.
Okay.
And it went through mythological villains and all that, but they had their Star Wars part of it, where it was Darth Vader. They had an original helmet from the prequels.
Wow. Yeah.
But they also have the wasn't McCrory. It was the one that did the layouts, the storyboards was a different guy. But I stood in front of and took a picture in front of storyboards from Star Wars. Dude, I was.
Yeah, but you can buy them. They're in a book as well.
I know.
But I would love to see the originals. Yeah.
I stood in front of and took a picture in front of one of the originals.
Yeah.
And in Paris, and that was just amazing, just to feel that. I mean, you know, our childhood memories, and this is what everybody's got to understand. Whatever influenced you between, let's say, the ages of 7 to 14, man, that sticks with you for life. I mean, it really does.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. And for lots of people, and that's a cool thing. It's like Star Wars is that for you and for me, and you can, and those people who are influenced by it, they're making the movies now. They're the creative people of today.
Well, have you seen Mandalorian?
Yeah.
That's obviously influenced improperly, a proper good science fiction. It's taken at a slow pace where you can really like the characters and feel comfortable. You know.
Yeah, it's maybe the best Star Wars we've seen in a long time. I've seen lots of Star Wars.
In my opinion, it is as well. It's
So what's coming out now? What's well, you talked about some stuff you've done, but let's put it in a row. Because you're working on lots of stuff.
It comes down to, why am I here?
Yes, why are you here?
Why are you here?
Oh, hold on. Yeah.
Anyway, no, but I before mentioned the Mike Grell project, the Pilgrim.
Right.
That is going to press. That's going to printers this week. We finished everything with that, and it was done as a Kickstarter project. A lot of the creators are doing that right now.
Right.
It's coming out through Kickstarter. So I've got the Pilgrim coming out, written by Mark Ryan and drawn by Mike Grell, and I do finishes and inks over his work, and I love being a part of this. I also have a poster that I did for this project as well. I can even show you later that. If you want. Also, the John Carpenter's Presents Night Terrors #1. That's the big thing too.
Yeah, I would love that.
It's a 60-page graphic novel, and if you like The Twilight Zone or Black Mirror,
right?
Have you seen Black Mirror yet?
Oh yeah, I love it.
The series is amazing. So if you like that kind of stuff, it's made for you, because it's 60 pages worth of fun science fiction horror type cool stuff. You like the characters, you hate the characters. And it's perfect for like a Twilight Zone. Written by Steve Niles.
Steve Niles,
written by Steve Niles,
one of the best horror writers in the business.
I would agree with that.
And I've already talked with Jens from the Mechanic Strip, and we're gonna do, because he's got his Mechanic Cast, the podcast of the Mechanic Strip. We'll do a special Mechanic Cast when it comes out with a signing. If you're up for it,
I would love that, of course.
So we're gonna do a signing in the Mechanic with you, and maybe live or whatever, and we do a podcast as well.
Oh, Jens is awesome. The Mechanic is my comic shop.
Right.
And it's,
yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. He's a great shop. He's wonderful. So I got that coming out.
Right.
And then also, I've got
Will it be in September or something?
About September, I think. Everything that's in Diamond's previews now, when he places the order, is like 2 months later.
Right.
Is when it comes out.
Yeah.
Get back to the old Indiana Jones. I remember I was solicited for it, and then given the script. So I was always on a run on the Indiana Jones, always having to try to fight for time.
Right.
So anyway, and then also the Liberty Brigade, which is Michael Finn's project. Again, the issue that's coming out, that's already been in Kickstarter, has a single-page origin story by me and another pinup, but it's also George Perez's last sequential pages artwork is in there.
Wow. Yeah.
And Michael Finn has Mark Wade as being the editor of that. I'm working on volume 2 of that right now, and I've got a lot more work in volume 2, a lot more work, including a cover as well.
But that's not on.
It's not available yet.
Okay.
But it's something that's in the works right now that's going to be coming out later. Michael Finn, he has the wherewithal to do things ahead of time in advance and not have to chase time. So where the work is done, he's got, some of the best artists on this project of 1940s obscure characters that are, but Decat.
Right.
I'm currently drawing her.
Yeah.
So but again, it's
so
public domain.
Yeah.
Public domain, and I'm drawing her in her original type costume. With that cape that's got the little ruffle type look and the red cape. And it's fun. It's really a lot of fun. I'm having a blast with this. There's a villain in there that looks a lot like Mysterio that I've got, and he predates obviously Mysterio by maybe 20 years. Yeah. So I'm having a lot of fun doing this. And then after that, it's going to be starting next week. I'm back to open commissions again for a while in between, which I get to provide really cool pieces for fans. I get to be asked to do things that I normally would never have drawn.
Right.
I could show.
Show us. Show us.
Ghostbusters. The real Ghostbusters. This is my rendition of that for a fan.
Oh wow!
With Slimer,
That looks so cool. Yeah, that looks really cool.
Yeah. And that's one of the few where I don't have my pencils on the back. I actually did a lot of the work on this smaller and enlarged it. So something that we're going to show you in a second has got we're on this He-Man piece.
Yeah.
Another legendary, He-Man. But on this piece, this goes to a collector in Germany. Great guy. He's bought pieces from me before. But if you turn it around, you can see that I do the detail work and the pencils on the back Because also I'm lazy, I don't want to go back over the inks with an eraser, and sometimes you lift a little bit of the inks up maybe with an eraser, you know, to get rid of the pencil lines. But it's so much more efficient to me to do it over a light box in layers like this.
Are there people who prefer the pencil over the inked one, or
no? Especially here in Europe, everybody wants it inked. My work on the Graveyard Moon, all of those originals are penciled because I sent them digitally to my inker Rodney Ramos.
Okay, yeah, of course.
So I don't even have, I've got only one inked piece from all of that, and it's already been bought by Steve Niles.
Oh, wow.
And I got to ship to him. Here, if you're a fan also of the, if you're a Joker fan.
Yes, and who isn't?
Yeah. if you're a Joker. Anyway, but this series, actually, I did this first on my own, inspired, because I'm a big fan of the new series, Harley Quinn.
Okay.
And I just love it. And my girlfriend and I were watching it and just fell in love with the series. So I did this piece reflected on that. But I had a fan that also immediately picked it up. He got to see the roughs for it, what I had planned. And, and so it's already paid for as well. I'm going to be delivering that on the end of this month.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool.
And of course, you know, getting back to the He-Man stuff, you've got She-Ra. Actually, I tell you what, even before the She-Ra. Okay, I think we might have shown this earlier. I don't know. Did we show this?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, that is a print of the original, but the original is in here. It's got to be delivered to a good friend of mine in Atlanta, Georgia. But I am a big Mandalorian fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Thor, done by Walt Simonson.
Yeah.
And so I did a little. I had the idea. He collects super pets, my friend does, and he loves the Mandalorian. But I said, hey, how about this idea? Would you like that?
Wow.
And so when a fan actually gives me a piece to do that I can actually say, hey, I got an idea, would you like this? And I can play and do it the way I want to.
Yeah.
Then that person's getting a commission that's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm having fun, and thank you for paying me to have fun, and this piece is yours. You get to own it. This is your original.
Yeah.
So that's a joy to me. And if they want to, I've got 2 agents that I go through that I send people to, but if they want to, they can contact me. You know, my email is stevescottart@yahoo.com.
stevescottart@yahoo.com.
Yes, stevescottart@yahoo.com. And I can get you that information to add to this if you want
I'll
to.
Put it in the description.
But from there, I can direct them. There's 2 amazing friends that I work with, and what they do is they handle them because they're bilingual.
Right.
They can talk Dutch, they can talk type in German to them, and they handle like the shipping. Like I get the work to them, and they can ship it. They package it and ship it to them and get it to them.
Right.
One of them is Tom, a good local friend of mine, and the other one is Rudy in Germany. So I got 2 that I work with that I trust them with everything.
Right.
Great people.
Nice.
So depending on what you want, I know which one to direct them to. If it's locally, if it's in Antwerp, then the Tom, they'll get an email back from him.
Okay. Wow. Well, it was really informative and fun, and thanks a lot. And I love that stuff.
You're my kind of nerd. I can talk with you for another few hours.
Yes, we can. Maybe we will in
the
future. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for the conversation and for being here and showing all that stuff. It's amazing. You're doing amazing work.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoy it. Like I'm one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
You know, to get to do what you love to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
I know. I try to do that as well. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Steven, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well.